One thing we should mention about this is that the Russians do have a large ethnic population in these areas, so there is a humanitarian interest, and that needs to be said. Here's the scene.
And we do owe a great deal of gratitude to our healthcare professionals. In fact, thousands of people from Saskatchewan and Manitoba came to Winnipeg yesterday to witness the Western semifinal. You'll recall, Mr. Speaker, where the Bombers were very successful and prevailed in beating the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And it's so encouraging to see my friend and colleague from across the way, the member from Regina, Louvain, wearing a Bomber jersey. And if I could ask him a question, I would, but I would say to my colleague across the way, would she not recognize that this wonderful game took place yesterday because in good part of the healthcare professionals and the fine work that they did and the fact that Canada is doing so well on the full vaccination. By the way, let's look forward to the Grey Cup next Sunday.
The honourable member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Mr. Speaker, and I'll tell you, that's the nicest question I've ever had from this member. But he's got to remember that I'm from Ontario, so go Ticats. So sorry, buddy. So anyway, it's absolutely the case. Mr. Speaker.
Question et commentaire, the honourable member for Timmins James Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I listened with great interest to my honourable colleague because I think what's happening in Canada is deeply, deeply troubling. We pride ourselves on our willingness to be good neighbours. That's who we are as Canadians. And yet we're seeing, with the anti-vax protests, a really disturbing rise in toxic behavior. This last weekend in Edmonton, a mob attacking a children's store. What is with that? In my region, a small-town doc, who was a hero to so many people, shut her practice because of the online harassment. We've had young mothers attacked at vaccine clinics in my region. Something I could never have imagined in 1,000 years would ever happen, that a mother and her child would be attacked and shouted down by a mob for trying to keep her child safe. So we have legislation here for our frontline health workers, but I want to ask my honourable colleague about the larger level of toxicity and this kind of anti-science violence that we're seeing that's targeting families, that's targeting people who are trying to get through a really difficult time.
The honourable member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Well, thank you very much for that question. And, I believe that everybody probably went through the same thing through this election. I'm from Elgin, Middlesex, London, where unfortunately one of my constituents is that person that is being charged, and I shouldn't say it's unfortunate that he's being charged. He needs to be charged, but I look at the fact that he was the one who threw gravel at the Prime Minister. This is just not the behavior that gets things done. This is toxic behavior and needs to be dealt with. Those are things that I will and do not support. We saw that type of temperament throughout the entire campaign in Elgin, Middlesex, London, and we had to be aware of it. For me, safety of Canadians has to be first. And if we could get back to less divisive discussions and more willingness to work together, we will have a better country once again. Thank you very much.
Question et commentaire.